Hey, what's up everyone? Hope you guys are doing alright. So bear with me here, I have to apologize if things look a little bit messy, but there's a reason for that. So lately I've been watching a bunch of different videos from some of my colleagues and friends on YouTube, where they've been sharing some of the cool things that they have in their various collections, whether it's lightsaber hilts, whether it's games, or just statues or whatever, and I kept thinking to myself, I have a bunch of cool stuff that I could show you guys, some of which I never really dived into or only mildly shared here and there, but why not do something similar? So I figured, you know what, let's actually do this and make a series out of it where I go through different consoles at different parts of my gaming collection, and what better way to start things off than to go back to the beginning with the SEGA Genesis. This was my very first video game console, and it was the one that I actually played my very first video game on. So I have a lot of SEGA Genesis games, so I want to show some of you guys the cool games that I have in my collection and share some of the stories of how I got some of these things, because it's pretty cool, it's funny, it's goofy, but also pretty freaking dope. Okay, so here we are, looking at my SEGA Genesis collection. This is the console itself, which we'll get to in just a second, but to show you guys a little bit more of some of the other stuff here, there's a lot to go through, as you could tell. But let's go one step at a time, because there is a lot. Let's actually check out first the console itself, like the actual peripherals and the actual system, because this is special to me. As many of you know that I've talked about many different times on the channel and other places, the SEGA Genesis is my very first console. It's my very first video game console I've ever touched, that I've ever played a game on, which I'll show you my first game in a bit. But this particular model, if you didn't already know, some of you out there already do, but for those that don't, this is the Model 1 Genesis. This was the original launch model of the Genesis in North America, which is also pretty much a derivative of the Mega Drive, which was the original Genesis console from Japan, and also eventually made its way to Europe. But this is a Model 1 Genesis. As you guys could tell, this has been very much worn down over the years, since 1989 that my brother got this. My older brother, he was actually like 10 or so years older than me, but me, I didn't touch this console till years later, because I was born in '88. I was born in the same year that the Mega Drive came out in Japan. So me and the Genesis are kind of like this, you know, in some way. Like, me and the Genesis are just about the same age. The point is, though, is that this is my first console, and it's just something that I always go back to in different ways every once in a while, you know, playing different games and stuff, or just look at it and reminisce. It's old, you know, archaic tech by today's standards. Obviously, it's only 16-bit. And obviously the cartridge thing, it's not like high definition graphics like the marketing tried to make people believe, but it still holds a special place in my heart. Now, as an offshoot of that, the one thing I do not have on me is the original controller that came with this, because remember, the original controller was a 3-button controller, which is the typical Genesis controller that you see bundled up with this model. But what I did get later on, after I got a little bit older and when they came out with them, I got the 6-button Genesis controllers, and as you could tell, these things are really banged up because they've been used so much, they've been played with so much over the years. I played a lot of Street Fighter 2 with this, I played a lot of Mortal Kombat 2 and Mortal Kombat 3 with this. I played a ridiculous amount of games, wrestling games, which we'll get into in a bit, but I played a lot of games with these controllers. Now, later on, like most recently in the last couple of years, I did get those retro bit replicated, not replicated, but kind of redone controllers for the modern day, which are pretty much the same build as these, but they not only have the original input for the Genesis you could plug into this thing, but also a USB input for PC, and I actually dig that. I actually have them over in the corner in my other part of my collection, but we're not going to look at that right now, okay? We're looking at authentic Genesis stuff, okay? Real stuff. You know what I'm saying? If you're an authentic Genesis user or a Genesis or Sega kid from back in the day, let me know in the comments, because we got to stick together. We're a dying breed out here. But anyway, let's get to the games, because the games is obviously the most important part of this. Now, the game that came with this console in particular was this bad boy right here. Altered Beast on the SEGA Genesis. This is the original box copy of the game that I got, or at least my older brother got at the time, with this model Genesis. And as you can tell, this thing is also banged up. It actually, the instruction booklet doesn't have the cover on it because it's been so used, it's been yellowed, but it's the original cartridge. As you can tell, it's weathered, everything. It's original box. It's, again, it's a relic, let me put it that way. But one of the cool things about this game is that even though I know a lot of people don't think this game is very good, and it actually is not the best, but it's not terrible by any means, especially for the time frame at least that it was developed. But it does have one of the coolest box arts I've ever seen. Okay, the original full artwork of this, especially in the Japanese version, when you see the full painting, is beautiful. One of these days, I want to get a full print so I can hang on my wall of this because it is so freaking cool. It's like a realistic, like, almost like a Frazetta painting because of the Greco-Roman iconography, and it's just dope. Again, if you've played this game before, you know the story and the plot behind it, you see like how much this matches up well with Altered Beast, but that's one of my favorites of the console because just of the sheer style, not because it's a great game, but just of the sheer style and the nostalgic value I have of it. But anyway, let's actually start getting to some of these other games over here. And I'm going to have to kind of move my mic a little bit, you know, just so I could sit down next to the camera. So if things get a little bit weird with the audio, I apologize. But we're going to kind of go through most of these games. So here's another one that I have that's, again, another classic. A freaking, you know, I played this game so many times. You can tell, look at the box. It's original box, but it's so banged up. It's so messed up. This came out, I believe, okay, it's 1989. So the same year that my older brother got the console. And I could even show you, again, part of the box, like, falling out here that I included here, again, just for sentimental value. But Ghouls and Ghosts from Capcom, classic Genesis game. One of the best on the Genesis, in my personal opinion. Again, some of the most phenomenal box art I've ever seen. This is another one that I want a full print of the original artwork, just so I could have for people to see, like, in my home. It just looks dope, man. It just looks fantastic. And the game is awesome. I think it's the best version of the Ghosts and Goblins series, in my personal opinion. Again, this is just my opinion here. I reviewed this game. If you want to see the review of it, I actually have it on the channel. You can see in my playlist. But this, to me, is the best Ghouls and Ghosts, or Ghosts and Goblins game of the series, in my personal opinion. So, just me. But now let's start getting into some of these other games, okay? There's a couple I'm going to skip over for now that I'll kind of come back to. But Wings of War is another one with some cool freaking box art, classic box art. Terrible game, in my opinion. I played this a lot back in the day on my Genesis, and I did a review of this on my channel at one point a while back. I don't think this game is very good. Some people say it is. I don't believe so. I think it's very broken and very kind of like unfair for a shmup. And I know that shmups could be very tedious and tough. Those are the games that really kind of like put some hair on your chest, for lack of a better phrase. But anyway, I'm trying to find the best way to sit down here so I could talk to y'all. There we go. So yeah, anyway, like I was saying, like this game is pretty wild. I think it's kind of crappy in my opinion, but again, just my own personal opinion and stuff. Now we start getting to other games which, for me, are a little bit much more personal, okay, for one reason or another. And again, it's a little bright on the camera, but there we go. One reason or another, we got the two Batman games. Now, I've reviewed both Batman games. Whoops. I've reviewed both Batman games already here on the channel. I'm just trying to get it to the brightness of the camera so y'all could see it. But I've reviewed both of these games on the channel before, and I've shared my extensive thoughts about them. But just to show you guys, and to show off a little bit, I could show y'all, I have the original boxes from way back when. Again, I'm a huge Batman fan. I share stuff about Batman all the time. As you can tell, their original boxes, cartridge, and all this stuff. It's all bad. As you can tell, like, the whole box is just like a mess. Like a complete and utter mess. Because of how much I've played it, how much I've opened this, how much I've used it. It's just crazy. And the same thing with Batman Forever. As you can tell, it's a little bit much more tidy because it's not that good of a game. I didn't play it as much in some way, you know. But yeah, I love Batman. Batman is one of my favorite superheroes and stuff. But anyway, before I get to some of these red boxes. Now, the red boxes, for anybody that doesn't know, the red boxes are some of the later release Genesis games where they started getting a little bit much more uniform with their boxes. But for then, we still have others that I've played a lot that still have their original box, including Hyper Snow Heist, which is TMNT. This was the Turtles game, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, that was the counterpart to Turtles in Time that was on the Super Nintendo. So while my friends had Turtles in Time, I had Hyper Stone Heist. And not many of them played this with me because we were all busy like playing other games at the time whenever we would get together. But they had Turtles in Time and I had this. And they're kind of the same game with a few minor exceptions. This one actually doesn't have the box art. I don't know how I lost this or whatever. Or actually, no, now that I think about it, this never came with a box art when I got this because I'm going to tell you guys a funny story. A lot of the games that I got, including this, and a few of the other ones that I'm going to show you here, especially with these boxes that have like these clear, standardized boxes, garbage boxes. These things were actually given to me at a local from a local video store. Okay, from a local video store that I used to frequent back in my old hometown, and it was something that I used to go there all the time. And at one point, during their life cycle, I want to say towards the late 90s. Of like when we're just getting into the 2000s. So I want to say I was maybe about middle school or so. they actually were getting rid of their stock. And they had all these Genesis and N64 games and a few PlayStation games that they just had nobody was buying. And they had this box there where they was just like, okay, just go and take one. You know, every time I would go there, I was like, oh, okay, I could take one free game. They're like, yeah. So it was a big sign. It was in this big cardboard box. So I was clever, like an idiot kid, okay? A clever idiot kid, right? I would go there every single day and I would take one game. So I was constantly getting these things. So after about a few days, the person behind the counter noticed this and was like, hey, listen, if you want, since nobody else is taking these games, you could take the whole box if you want. So me being an idiot kid, I'm like, yes, why the hell not? Would I not take all these games? Of course. So I'm this like stupid kid with this giant box, right? Walking down my street. It was like, it had to be about a block and a half or so, or 2 blocks, back to my home. And I remember walking into my apartment at the time, and my mom like freaking out and like just being super confused because she thought I like robbed a store or something, because I had this giant box with like most of these games you see here came from that box, with the exception of the few that I'll mention here and there. But still, it was utterly hilarious because that's how I got the bulk of my Genesis collection, or at least of the cartridges at the time. And again, these are all straight from that era. So anyway, story aside, back to the collection. I'm going to start going a little bit faster now. Let's talk about Mortal Kombat 2. Mortal Kombat 2, classic, phenomenal, you know, iconic game. My favorite of the Mortal Kombat series. Same original box that I got. I didn't get this from that little story there, from the video store. This one we actually went to the store at Toys R Us specifically, and I bought this. I got this, and then my brother got Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which was a big deal for us because, again, I'm a huge Sonic fan, which we'll get to in a bit. But Mortal Kombat 2, cannot recommend this enough, especially the Genesis version. The Genesis version feels right. Some people go with the Super Nintendo or the original arcade, and I understand that, but this is the one I grew up with the most. I think it has the better music and the better sounds, but that's just my personal opinion. Then we start getting to other licensed games, including Maximum Carnage and Jurassic Park. Fun fact, at the time I'm making this video, I'm actually doing a video review of Jurassic Park, this version of Jurassic Park, which is coming out probably in the next few weeks. So you'll probably see this pop up on like Patreon or something. But yeah, original thing. You can see like even the tape where the stickers used to be for when they were in the video store, and like the broken ass manual. And they used to do this thing. I hated this, right? They used to put these stickers on the cartridges and on the labels themselves, so it's a real pain in the ass to get them off. Look, they even did it here. You can even see the writing. Somebody wrote that on the video store. Can I make it out? I was like, or return something. I can't remember like what it says. It's just completely like illegible now at this point. But yeah, it's stuff like that. But again, same thing with Maximum Carnage. Original box, it's all banged up over the years since I played it so much, and I hated when they did this on there. It's still funny enough because you could still make out like the original label for Maximum Carnage in there, but I just hate the stupid stickers with the numbers. I mean, nobody cared about preservation back then for video stores and stuff. Nobody gave a damn about that. So anybody that tells you otherwise is lying to you, straight up. Earthworm Jim, I actually got this much later on. This is why it actually looks like one of the cleanest in the collection so far. I actually got this from a retro gaming store not too long ago, and they have a lot of the original box stuff and everything else. And Earthworm Jim is a classic. A lot of people don't like the creator now for various reasons, but doesn't mean that we still can't appreciate the game itself, because I don't think that the game or the artwork piece necessarily always has to deal with the actual artist for whatever reason. I mean, you could not know the artist or not know the creator and still enjoy the game for what it is. But again, my own personal opinion. So now we start getting, let's go through the mass of sports games that I got from that, you know, I guess you could say that big giant gaming score for what it was, because I want to get to the much better stuff, which is like over here. There's even more, son. Like, there's going to be a longer video. I'm going to have to cut it up and actually do different clips. But yeah, we got a lot of freaking basketball games, like including classics like NBA Jam. We got Bulls versus Lakers in the NBA playoffs. Dick Vitale's Awesome Baby. I mean, what's the other one? No, the rest of these, okay, those are all basketball. But these are the 3 main basketball. There was other basketball games of the time that I just did not get. Because, again, I didn't play a lot of sports games. I wasn't a huge sports games guy. If anything, the one sports game I probably played the most of is NBA Jam. You know, because it's NBA Jam. And that's the main reason why anybody would play sports games, especially arcade sports games. Okay, original box, original everything. Looks a little bit more cleaner than most, as you could tell. But it still looks dope. This is from like the 1990, what year is this? 1994. Okay, so 94 roster or the 93 roster. So you have like the classic Bulls without Michael Jordan, the classic Knicks, etc. Then you have this one, which I believe was 92 or 93. Yeah, this one was 92. Bulls versus Lakers in the NBA playoffs. So this one actually has Jordan in it, okay, which is good. And this is when EA was actually really good for a lot of people. When EA Sports was like a thing. Like, their cartridges were ridiculously huge. And they had like all these like stupid extra like posters and stuff that they had included inside their boxes. Their manuals were a little bit different too. I mean, this was a weird time for sports games and just games in general, as you can tell. Like, even the box looks a little weird. So, but yeah, Dick Vitale's, as you guys can tell here, same thing. Came from that collection. All that stuff. Then you can say the same thing about the freaking football games. Okay, there were so many freaking football games back in the day. Like, again, I don't know what's up with everybody in their sports games, you know, for what they were. But look how many football games this is, man. Look, I got at least 3 Madden games. No, actually, how many I got? 1, 2. I actually got 4, I believe. So Madden 94. Here, look. Here we go. Because I actually have one more, I believe, on the side, which we'll get to. Which is, wait, no, this isn't the Madden. Where is it? Okay, there's 2 here, so technically, no, I got 3 Madden games. I'm trying to see where it's at. It's actually in the corner here. Okay, there it is. Okay, we're going to look at one of the crappy boxes from the video store, too. So, we have Madden 96, Madden 95, and Madden 94. 94, 95, 96. These all came together when I got them because nobody was buying these at the video store. I think that by the time I had gotten these, I think we were already on Madden 98 or 99. We were already in the 3D era by the time I got these, maybe, I think. But the 94 is classic. I think that 96 is the best one out of these collection of Madden games. It's just surreal looking at them now and seeing like how far sports games have come, but still, a lot of people are way too obsessed with sports games. And look, I even got Joe Montana, 93 and 94. Again, other sports games, like if you have Madden, why would you play these? If you have Madden already, why would you pick these up? Unless you're a big Joe Montana fan. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, Joe Montana was cool for a lot of people, especially with the Dolphins, but I don't know. And the same thing with the NFL quarterback club. It's like all these like off-brand sports games, off-brand football games that people just bought up like for no reason. Look at this. It's even connected with the stickers of the damn thing. Look at it. It's crazy. Let me put this back in there. This is weird, dude. It's like so weird. Oh my god, it's crazy with these sports games, you know. And then obviously college football 97. This was random. This was like just included in that big box that I got. And as you can tell, the box is all like banged up. Look, the instruction manual looks like garbage. Well, it's got color, but it still looks like kind of garbage. Same thing, it's EA Sports, so EA. Look, Hastings Video. As you can tell, Hastings Video, their stickers are still on there. I didn't even bother taking these out. They used to put these stickers just to let people know, like, you will be charged if the instruction booklet is not included. If you steal the instruction booklet, you're getting charged at the wazoo. So many freaking sports games, man. And look, we got fishing games. This one was also included in that box, but it didn't come with a manual. But this was a game I just didn't realize or didn't know how to play because the game hardly even tells you when you're playing it. It's just weird as a fishing game. Again, not really sure who would be playing this would be for, who would be playing this. If you're a big fishing guy, there was better games at the time. And then finally, let me remind you all about hockey, because even though I'm not a big hockey guy, I did have hockey NHL 97, which this was the one that introduced me to hockey games, the one that I played probably the most because it was actually fun to play multiplayer with people. And it also had, you know, I'll probably have like an insert here of the theme, like really briefly, but like NHL 97 has this really dope opening like menu theme that just got like a real sick beat to it. It just sounds really good. Super random, I know, it's just to come from like a sports game, but it was actually really sounded very good on the SEGA Genesis. Like I'll just put it here so y'all could check it out, but it's really, really freaking cool. Okay, moving on from there. Now let's get to the real good stuff. Okay, obviously, Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, what more can I really say about Sonic at this point? Again, Sonic the Hedgehog, the very first video game I ever played. When I played Sonic as my first video game, I didn't own this cartridge. I didn't own Sonic itself with this console because the games that my brother owns, when I finally discovered games, or like right after that, and I was told, hey, we have a SEGA Genesis, and blew my mind. I went to a family relative's house, and they had Sonic 1 for their Genesis, and that's where I played it. And I was enthralled from Green Hill Zone onward. Like, just the music, the sounds, and everything else. Sonic 1 is just, again, is the GOAT to me. And it was really the genesis, quote-unquote, the genesis of my time in gaming. And years afterwards, I ended up getting Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and Sonic & Knuckles, which is the original saga for the SEGA Genesis. As you could tell, this is what they used to do at the video store, right? So when they didn't have the original box and they didn't have the original artwork and stuff, or like they did something with it or it got lost, they would actually do these little inserts that actually were typed out and or at least printed out on like an old computer and tell you exactly like special stuff about the games. You know, it's a quick write-up and all this other stuff. It was really weird, but as you can tell, the cartridge has been used to hell so much. I've been playing this game and, you know, matching it up with Sonic and Knuckles or just playing alone. Now, Sonic 3 is a funny story because this I actually went to the not to the video store, to Toys R Us to get, like I mentioned earlier, and I got it in this flimsy cardboard box, which is what Sega used to do because they were mad cheap. They actually started using less of the traditional Genesis boxes and started using this crap, and you would end up getting cartridges in just cardboard boxes, and people used to throw them out. So luckily for me, I actually had this for the Mega Hits series where I didn't throw it out, and I still have the original box, as you guys could tell from this, that I got at a Toys R Us where I bought Mortal Kombat 2 with. Or at least technically my parents bought Mortal Kombat 2 with it, back in the day anyway. So let me fix this up to make sure that it closes. There we go. But yeah, I got one of those like clear case, boxes for the game and just put it all together like this, which I wish I could have done more of to get for some of the other games, but you know, alas. Here, and then obviously Sonic and Knuckles, as you could tell. The top part of this actually, when I got this cartridge, did not have a top section of it. It actually did not have the little case thing, a little like shutter to protect the little top part. It protects it from dust and stuff, but if I have it in the box most of the time, I think I'm pretty good. Like it doesn't really bother nobody or anything. And it's good. You know, I just wish I had the original box too, because the box art for Sonic and Knuckles is actually super dope. So, moving on. Let me actually throw in a few more in here on the side before we get into the ones over here. There's a couple more I want to mention. Again, Mortal Kombat 3 is another one that I actually got, and this one's actually a little dusty. Let me wipe that. It's a little bit dusty, but there you go. Mortal Kombat 3 is the other Mortal Kombat game I have in my collection. Again, with the flimsy Genesis box. This is what these Genesis boxes look like. They used to have a top flap on them, but this one obviously broke off. But look, you used to get it like this, and the cartridge would be right here, holding the game, and you could actually just pull it out like this, and then you would have the box in there, or whatever other materials that were in there. And again, this is the original box, and as you can tell, they don't do well with time. Like, they just, again, completely get messed up over the years. Because, you know, cardboard is so flimsy. It's not the same as, like, you know, plastic boxes. But it's cool to see stuff like this. Again, being able to still do this, I just wish that the tops and the bottoms were on there so I could store it better. Be a little bit better. But anyway, I'm notorious, and I did a whole video with my friend Timok99 where we actually went through the original trilogy, and I talked about Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 or MK3 in general. I'm not a huge fan of this game, even though I like the style, I like the music. But the game itself, as far as the gameplay, I think Mortal Kombat 2 is a far better game and more true to the Mortal Kombat formula. That is a wild opinion, I know, but it is my opinion. It's my own personal opinion about it. So, talked about that to death. And the same thing also for another random game, which, as you could tell here, like I was just saying, the flaps that used to be here, for Super Battleship, which is super random, I know. But my brother ended up getting this game one day for no reason, just bought it and just like added to the collection. It's like really random, really weird, really silly, and it's just like, again, look how banged up these cardboard things get. Let me try to put this back in here and try to at least give it some dignity. You know what I'm saying? Like, just make sure that it at least gets back in there and it's not so thing. Like, even now, like, I can hear part of it like ripping. It's like, so like flimsy, man. But it used to like be held like this, or at least to be held in some way where you actually would have this, like, I guess you could like bent or whatever, and it's just like it would go in here, and it's upside down, actually. Now that I was looking at it, I was like, wait a second, something's wrong here. There we go. It used to be like this, and used to be going into here, and just, oh my god. Like, look at this. Look at this. It's a damn shame. Look, I can even hear it. I can hear it ripping. It's like, Every time I hear that rip, I just, like, cringe a little bit. It's like, As you can tell, yeah. Super Battleship. Enough said. And then finally, a couple cartridges that I have that are just randomly that came from the video store. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Can't say much more about Power Rangers because it was such a big thing. Everybody's talked about this to death. And Pac-Man 2, The New Adventures. Another random game that just came in there, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll take them. I'll give them a good home. And they've been with me for years ever since. So finally, let's get to the other good stuff. Or the other crazy stuff, I should say. More cartridges and more boxes of stuff from the video store. These crappy boxes, with the exception of this one. But like, more crappy boxes. Look at this. We have Eternal Champions. I reviewed Eternal Champions on the channel that you guys could see right now if you haven't already. It's a little bit of an older video, but yeah, I've talked about this. I don't think this game is very good. I think it's broken. Looking back at it now, back in the day, I used to play this a lot, as you could tell. Okay, but looking at it now with, like, you know, less rose-tinted glasses, this game as a fighting game was all messed up, was all over the place, and was just a product of the time. You know, it was the 90s style. It was very, like, what year was this? This was... I'm trying to look on at the copyright. Where the hell's the copyright thing? It says... Because I'm looking at the very little tiny, like, print here. I'm trying to see, where the hell is this? It doesn't even have it listed on there. Actually, no, here we go. Okay, no, it's above it. It's actually 1993. Okay, so... Yeah, it was a product of the early 90s, man. Like, just that weird, over-exaggerated, like, muscular, like, crazy superhero style from, like, Marvel and DC Comics. It was a vibe back then. Gargoyles, if you're a big Disney fan, you know Gargoyles. Okay, Gargoyles was awesome. The game, not so much. I actually reviewed this game during Halloween last year for a series, or again, like, different games I was playing for Halloween-themed stuff. And Gargoyles is another weird game, man. Because it follows the series, but doesn't follow the series as a whole. Like, there's just a lot of characters missing. It's a weird, like, rendition of what Gargoyles is, but it's cool because you get to play as Goliath, and you get to smash robots, which is cool. This one here, Side Pocket. This is apparently a classic for a lot of people. I always thought that this was kind of like a generic pool game that was like, whatever. But maybe, if I'm being honest here, maybe the real reason why people like this game is because of the music. I mean, and also the pretty women that appear in the game, as you could tell from, like, the screenshots here in the back. There is pretty women in there, which is cool. Again, it's a very early 90s vibe that was, like, you know, again, trying to appeal to a male demographic for one reason or another, like what was masculine, what was, like, cool, what was hot back in the day, but whatever. Then finally, which I'm going to, actually, you know what? I'm going to save this because we're going to get to those in just a second. Caesar's Palace. This is another random one that I got in that collection of games from the video store, which is, again, I'm not into gambling like that. I don't care for, you know, gambling games like this or classic games of that nature. But it was like, hey, I'll give this game a good home, and it's fine. And apparently this is another classic for people on the SEGA Genesis, or at least people at least remember in some way. I'm kind of messing with the stickers on there. But it's like, whatever, man. Now, let's get to the final collection of good stuff, or good relics, I should say, because some of these games are not good. As you can tell, this game has been banged up. The box is fucked up, and it's like, there's no cover art and stuff, but this is actually Fire Shark. Now, if you're a little bit older, again, if you're a big Genesis fan, you probably know what Fire Shark is, if you've probably, like, seen it in a few spots. This is a classic shmup. That's actually a rendition of another game, which I believe it's called, I think it's called Fire, 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 or something like that. I can't remember the exact Japanese name, but I looked it up before, and I reviewed Fire Shark in the past on the channel. Again, that's another video you could see here on the channel. But this is done by DreamWorks, classic DreamWorks. Not the ones that did some of the DreamWorks movies, but like an offshoot of it that was like a very different company back in the day. I can't really show you the box art, but again, as you can tell, it's actually got cool box art, because this is the exact same thing as what the actual box art was. And I just love this type of style for game covers or game box arts. It's just pretty dope. But as you can tell, there's a lot of wear and tear of it because I played this a lot. So now let's get to the wrestling games. Now, I come from a family of really big wrestling fans, especially from the 80s and the 90s. Okay, wrestling was a huge part of our lives for one reason or another. And the main reason of that, if you don't already know, and I've talked about it a few times, I actually used to go to the house shows at Madison Square Garden when I used to live in New York. I used to go there every once in a while. I've gone there, I'm told about maybe 4 or 5 times, usually for my birthday that my family would go. And yeah, I was a big WWF fan, so I played a lot of WWF games from back in the day. There's a couple classic ones I have in here, and ones that are just, again, classic, at least to me, you know, for nostalgic value. So the one that I've reviewed on the channel that you could actually find as well now, again, a lot of these games I've reviewed in one time or another, but this one specifically, WrestleMania the arcade game, this was the specific version that I reviewed in my video. As you can tell, it's all banged up. It's all like creased. It's all like looked at. But yeah, this is a classic wrestling game because it was done by the same people who made Mortal Kombat. It's done by Acclaim and Midway. It has the same over-exaggerated style, the over-the-top nature. It really plays on the gimmick of wrestling, you know, the crazy nature of it. And it was a fun game to play in the arcade, but I love the Sega Genesis version compared to the other versions of this. I criticized it, obviously, with less rose-tinted glasses now, but it's still a classic. It's still fun to go back to every once in a while, if you're a wrestling fan. Anybody who's a wrestling fan, let me know in the comment section if you've played this a lot. And then the two that kind of play, or really the three that play off of each other, are these three games right here, which it actually should be kind of like this, because this, or better yet like this, because this came first. Super WrestleMania, classic game. It's actually also on the Super Nintendo as well, with a different roster, by the way, because they used to do this thing with wrestling games back in the day, especially in the early 90s and to the mid 90s, that multiple versions of games of the same name would have different rosters. So this one, the Sega Genesis version, okay, we have Macho Man, we have Ultimate Warrior, Ted DiBiase, Papa Shango, Hogan, or pretty much everybody here on the back, right? We have all these wrestlers. On the Super Nintendo, they actually had The Undertaker, they had the Legion of Doom. I believe they also had Mr. Perfect and Ric Flair. Like, it was so, like, radically different. But it was cool because if you had friends that had different consoles, you guys were still essentially playing the same game, but you had different characters. So you could go to each other's houses and play with like different types of matchups, and it was pretty fun. It was pretty cool. So Super WrestleMania, definitely a product of its time. It's really archaic by today's standards, and it's not as good as these other two games because of the way that it moves, the way that its speed, and the way that it controls overall. It's really kind of, you know, archaic in that nature. But then we get to Royal Rumble, and then WWF Raw. I reviewed this one as well, I believe. Yeah, I reviewed this one as well at one point. I believe after WrestleMania the Arcade or before it. And this one has a much bigger roster of wrestlers. And again, it has a different type of style. Very similar to Super WrestleMania, but like given much more quality of life changes, more match types. You could actually do a Royal Rumble. You could fight with a steel chair. There's a lot of different stuff. The music is so much better. But yeah, in comparison to Super WrestleMania, but as a wrestling game compared to everything else out there, it's still another product of the time, and it was just a vibe back then, okay? This is also the same thing, but this version of the game has different roster or different lineup of wrestlers compared to the Super Nintendo, because the Super Nintendo got Ric Flair, they got Mr. Perfect, they got, I'm trying to remember who else. There was like 2 or 3 other people that I'm missing, but the Sega Genesis version actually had more wrestlers in it, which is cool. And the same thing goes for WWF Raw. Now, WWF Raw, I actually got this in that collection of games that I mentioned earlier. So no box art and stuff, but as you could tell, since I'm a big wrestling fan, I was happy to take this. This is like the arcade version. Like if you took some of the stuff from this game and injected into that game, this is what you would get. And it's kind of a weird hodgepodge. Maybe one day I'll take a look at that and actually do a review of it for people that are interested. Let me know in the comments if you want to see that. But that was a weird turn of events or a combination of stuff for wrestling games. And then finally, let's get to the last little bundle. I know this video is going on long, but I have a lot of stuff in my collection. And if you guys are interested in stuff like this and you are digging it, or at least, you know, the trip down memory lane, talk to me about that down below in the comment section. Of course, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and all that jazz. So let's end off on some good notes. Okay, let's end off on some fun notes. Okay, but let's get the bad one out the way. Let's get this garbage out the way, okay? I have one of the few copies of Shaq Fu in my collection. I know that there's a limited number of copies out there. There's even a website dedicated to destroying every single copy of this game. And I reviewed this game, okay? I have chops as a critic and a reviewer because I reviewed Shaq Fu, okay? So when I tell you that a game like Masters of Terraskasi or Terraskasai on the PlayStation is worse than this game, you better believe me because I played the worst of the worst when it comes to fighting games. But yeah, man, Shaq Fu is a weird thing. This was totally a vanity project by Shaquille O'Neal. Okay, a basketball player that had enough money to go make something that he wanted, and people just bought into it because it's Shaq. I will admit though, the logo is pretty cool. The logo is actually pretty cool compared to the new one that we got in the sequel, quote unquote sequel, much later. But anyway, Shaq Fu, it exists. I have a copy of it, a hard copy of this game, as you can see in all its glory. It is what it is. So yeah. Now moving on. A lot of people probably have never played this, X-Mutants. So some people might think that it's actually maybe an offshoot of the X-Men, but it's actually not. It's just some random original game that was on the Sega Genesis. What year was this? 92. Okay, again, one of those years that we had a lot of original, like, random stuff. And it's just an action platformer. So you could have like 2 different characters that you could play as. Maybe one day I'll review this just to kind of, talk about it, because I don't see a lot of people talking about this game, in the last, 10 years or so. And it's just weird. It's a weird, action platformer that you could fight with, a battle axe. You have different types of, power stuff, and it's just goofy overall. So, yeah, this exists. I have a hard copy of it, and I got this as part of that box collection that I was mentioning. And then finally, or not finally, we got 2 more here. Got a couple licensed games. We also got one original one. So Beavis and Butthead. Everybody knows Beavis and Butthead. Everybody's seen the Angry Video Game Nerd video about this series, or about these games, because he did it more on this game and the Super Nintendo game mostly. But I have the Genesis one. As you can tell, this thing's all messed up. I actually, what was it, about a couple months ago, I tried to remove the sticker that was on here, and that was a total disaster. That was the worst idea I had. So I just left it as is. So it's a hard copy. I've played it before. This game is broken, honestly. It's just not that good. There's so many things about it that are just so bafflingly weird as far as design choices. But it's Beavis and Butthead, and that's why people bought it back in the day. This was, what year was this? This was 94. This was in 1994. So when Beavis and Butthead were technically still hot for a lot of people. So Alien 3, okay, so even though this is part of the worst Alien movie, the game is not actually that bad. It's actually pretty good. This game, this version, or this box copy, as you can tell, it's a lot more newer looking. I picked this up at a retro gaming store. It's called CD Trader. That's no longer around in my area. It was actually pretty cool to see it and to play it, because the one thing I will say about this game that's really good, that some people will admit to if they've played it, the music in this game is phenomenal. The music in this game is great, especially in the second or third stages, or the areas, because stages have multiple parts to them. So the second or third ones are really freaking good. This one I definitely want to review one day, because this game is really freaking dope when it comes to its music. But the gameplay, again, I'll talk about it more when I get to it someday. And then finally, the last game in my collection, Biohazard Battle. This is another original shmup style game. I was actually, fun fact, right? I was planning on doing a collab with my friend Kid Shoryuken about this game. I was actually going to do a full video of this, but we never actually got to do so. We never actually found the time to actually do so. So maybe I should hit him up and ask him if he wants to do that video at some point. But it's basically a shmup that has a lot of giant insects, monsters, worms, all types of stuff. It has to deal a lot with biological horrors, just for whatever reason, there's a planet that has all this toxic waste, and humans just have to navigate through it and destroy this big monster. It's pretty crazy. And it's got co-op, which is cool. So yeah, no box art and all that stuff, but it is what it is. So yeah, there you go. This was a longer video. I know it's going to be a little bit, take a little bit too long for some people, but that is my entire Genesis collection, man. All my Genesis games, as you could tell, for the most part, that are included in here. Okay, so yeah, let me know your thoughts about this. I'm going to probably do other videos with some of the other consoles and other games that I have in my collection. Just highlighting some of the different ones that you guys could see. Again, because I figured this is fun, get a little trip down memory lane, and just talking about some of the stories about how I got some of these games. But anyway, those are just my thoughts about all this. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section, and I will see you guys again very soon. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching this video. I appreciate your support and all your good vibes as always. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon too to support my channel for new videos each week. You could also join my Patreon for early access to brand new videos and other exclusive content. Don't forget to join my Discord server too and be part of the community I have over here. If you're into games, then you'll love interacting with all the great people who are part of it. Thanks again, guys. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.